hard to watch. So we're really not so this is the study paradigm that's been used, especially 60 years ago. Take boys and put them into an fMRI, so you're measuring brain physiology and brain activity while they're playing a video game, and that's just a clip from Grand Theft Auto. And what we see is decreased activation in prefrontal portions of the brain, so that reasoning and logic center is dialed down quite a bit. Increased activation in the amygdala, that limbic system is dialed up. What was interesting about this study, and I think that's a predictable neurophysiological reaction, is when you stop the video game and then you give the boys a Sudoku puzzle to do, and you keep watching the signal, you find a lingering effect of heightened emotional arousal here, and suppressed self-control here, that lingers long after they stop playing the game. So if you play Call of Duty for 2 hours, does your brain stay in that state for another half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour? And so how available are you for learning? How available are you for study? That's a very different vibe than just watching something on the internet. And we'll see a study in a couple of minutes looking at high school boys and what the impact of video game time versus simply surfing the net. Marty's giving me the, okay. Just another sample of Grand Theft Auto. And we're going to talk about women in a minute too, because they play a special role in video games.
You still tough? Don't make me late to school. Suck it up and stay down.
So the operator is moving the feet?
Yes, the operator's hitting. And that's a woman who I assume is not earning an appropriate amount of income for this gentleman. And then there's a kid in the background, I don't know if you heard it, said, "Don't make me late for school." I don't know. That's been out there for 7 years now. I know. Piece on academics. Playing console and internet video games for more than an hour a day has negative social and academic effects. Here's the chart I'm going to show you. Let's draw a line between internet and television versus console versus video games. So kids playing less than an hour, more than an hour, almost no difference in GPAs. And these are 9th and 10th grade boys. These are bright kids. These are good GPAs. Almost no change if they're spending more than an hour or less than an hour on television and internet. But when we get to video games, there's almost a full GPA drop when you go over an hour a night. And I really think it speaks to the way video games capture the brain, hold the brain while you're playing, and really leave the brain unavailable in some ways for learning. So that's important, I think, in terms of how much you let your kid play at night, on a school night, how long they play, what time they play, do they play before bed, those sorts of things. This is probably the best study out there to date, 3,000 kids studied, published in Pediatrics. And one of the things we found is that those kids prone to be addicted to video games will show very early on. And we'll know that they are. And those are the kids that are at risk. It's not simply the game kids play, but the kid who plays the game. And we know that these kids are much more likely to have attention and learning differences, that their brains are more vulnerable to that sort of video addiction. So if you know any kids like that. More normative beliefs about aggression, more hostile attribution biases, more aggressive fantasies. You know, I listen to 7th grade boys. One of the things I ask boys a lot of times is, what's your revenge fantasy? Because a lot of early adolescent boys have revenge fantasies. Somebody's crossed them or shamed them in some way, and they already have something in their head. And often the scenario comes from a video game with giant metal arms and RPGs and all sorts of things. Also more likely to be victims of aggression, more likely to be victimized by others. I'm going to save you the torture scene. Yeah, ADHD. The presence of ADHD is a risk factor for pathological use. ADHD kids have higher rates of addiction, satisfy that need for speed, and enhances the stimulation of dopaminergic or brain-based pathways. So we know our ADD kids are more likely. I'm going to switch to women for just a minute. The role of women in video games has become a huge issue. Anybody familiar with the term Gamergate? And so women have really played pretty crummy roles for the most part. This is just sort of a description of that. Bodies are altered. That's, what's her name? What's her name?
Kate Upton.
So this is Assassin's Creed. Now, some people like Assassin's Creed because it's kind of historically relevant, French Revolution. It's kind of accurate in that sense. And some boys will tell me, I learned that in school. This is just a clip from that. Whoops, we lost it. Let's go back a second. Get a little of the Assassin's Creed.
Grab a whore and have a good time.
Welcome to the second part of our mini-series examining the women as background
This
decoration
woman,
trope in video games.
Was
I need to
offered
stress
an
that this
award
video
for
comes
her
with a
role in pointing out the role of women in video games. She received her award in New York. She lives in Manhattan. After she received her award, she actually got death threats from gamers all over the country. They made up a video game of her being raped. She had to leave her home, and she continues to experience significant threats from these anonymous gamers out there. It's really, it turned into really serious business. It's really pretty disruptive in terms of the image of women, and particularly how young boys see and view women. So she has a whole series called Tropes versus Women in Video Games. You can Google it. It's pretty interesting to watch. All right, I'm going to start winding up since we want you out of here by 9. A couple of take-homes on the brain. So video games are suppressing those areas of the brain responsible for reasoning, logic, and self-regulation, activating those reasons responsible for aggression, addiction, reward, and arousal, leaving a neural signature that lasts for hours, and desensitizing our sensitivity towards violence and aggression. And I think those are the take-homes from a neuroscience standpoint. We see increased aggressive behavior. These are multiple studies, peer-reviewed studies in high-impact journals. Increased aggressive thoughts, increased argumentativeness. There's a great piece on just the hostility that you see in middle schools, the snarkiness, increased hostile attribution bias, increased levels of depression, anxiety, and social phobia. Now, there may be some exception to boys on the spectrum who use video games as a tool for social engagement, and I think that's a slightly separate case. More likely to be a victim of aggression, decreased academic performance, diminished empathy, and pro-social behavior. These are not boys that are going to go into schools and shoot anybody, but they're a very negative effect on attitude and behavior and understanding of how we relate to other people. Warning signs, 15 to 20 hours a week is a problem. I had a kid in yesterday, he's 14, and we think he spends about 24 hours a week playing video games. And so I'm watching the mother trying to count the hours up, and she's going, well, he comes home, and Saturdays, and this and that. And she reached 20 hours long before she hit Friday. This kid is more anxious and depressed. He thinks in the format and paradigm of video games, kids that get up in the morning on Saturday before their parents get up to play a video game, that's a little bit of a problem. I can't think of anything that would have gotten me up in the morning before my parents on a Saturday. It's hard to imagine. There really is not a connection between aggressive video games and school shootings. This has been put out there many times, I think as a way to scare parents and drive funding for studies. I'm showing you Swing Bree, who murdered 32 at VTech. A psychologist came on the media within 24 hours of the killing, and he said, this guy was using the Doom paradigm. Anybody familiar with Doom? Doom was one of the very first-person shooter games, and you see this barrel of a gun, and you just run around shooting people. Problem, and everybody bought that. That's right, video games. He's playing Doom, and now he's going into the halls of Virginia Tech and killing. The problem was, the kid never played video games. There was no evidence the kid played any video games whatsoever. He was a depressed, suicidal kid. And most shooters, Secret Service protocol, in schools are depressed and self-destructive. So it's not the video games aren't sending kids out to do that. That's a good thing. School killings have actually declined. Video game popularity has surged.
But I did see GTA actually has a school shooting option,
Yes.
which the policeman showed us the other night.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can be the school shooter.
Yeah. There's no, you can be. There's no control of content. It's really wide open, and the money is phenomenal. Just a very interesting note: when they transitioned from DSM-4 to 5. a working committee from the American Psychiatric Association recommended an addiction diagnosis, video game/internet addiction. And the research was there, everybody approved of it, and in the final rendition of the DSM-5, it got lost. And now it's in the very back of this huge volume that said diagnosis still under consideration. The role of economics and money is obviously pretty substantial in these situations. So what should you ask? How much time is your kid spending? How's he playing? Is he playing on an open server or a closed server? How many kids play Minecraft? Are they playing Minecraft on an open server or a closed server? Can you create your own closed server? And if not, do you have somebody that'll help you do it? What games are you playing? Where do you play? Are you downstairs in the basement, in your bedroom, or in a family area? Who do you play with? When do you play? Do your parents have rules for play? Obviously, same with social media. This is our general, we don't have good recommendations, so this is the best we've come up with in our practice. We started, this is what we've been telling parents for a while. An hour a day, 7 hours a week. For adolescents, this is teenagers now. No more than an hour in a school day. Avoid play before bedtime. Make sure you know the content. Play your kid's game for 5 minutes. Get a feel for it. Supervise open servers. Make sure you know how much time they're spending on video game related technology, watching YouTube or Twitch, playing in a public area. For younger kids, really a half hour. Avoid play before bedtime. E&E 10 only on protective servers and only in public areas.
Are you talking about play or all media?
No, play, video game play. Because
Video game.
yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of media that's probably reasonably fine and healthy for a lot of kids. I don't have much of a problem with it. This is really games that are more aggressive. And we have plenty of kids at 10 years old playing Call of Duty. I remember when my daughter was in the 8th grade, she would text her friend Jack, she was in Trinity down in Ellicott City, and Jack would text back, CODDING, and I'd look at her phone and go, "Caught him. 8 o'clock, fishing, what's he doing?" He was playing Call of Duty. What he was saying is, "Don't bug me, Stephanie, I'm playing Call of Duty." And he was 11 at the time. Okay, so let me wrap up. Home strategies, setting rules, agreeing on a set of rules, discussing and explaining to your kid. When a new game comes, they get excited. Just like Christmas in the morning, you want to play with it for a while, and then usually that will calm down. These are Larry Silver's suggestions. Larry's a psychiatrist down in Bethesda, Silver Spring area. Do whatever is necessary to support other activities. It's much easier to draw a kid to something that he likes rather than to stop him from something that he wants to do, as you know, sort of a general thing. Have a budget for video games. Sometimes you can use a house budget for video games as a way to curtail how many you bring into the home and what you bring into the home. Make sure you know what he's playing at his friend's house, because everybody has a buddy who has a bootleg copy of Grand Theft Auto 5. Let's go past that. A couple of websites. Media Awareness Network is an excellent site for, I think, some fairly good objective information regarding video games. Common Sense Media, another excellent site. Those two, I think, are very good. That's Not Cool.com for kids who are having questions about issues with social media and their friends and phones and postings. That offers a lot of good suggestions, and it's very much modeled towards what kids would be interested in. This is an industry rating board, so you know, it's somewhat helpful, but not too helpful, frankly. It's like the movies, you know, are. Those are some websites. All right. Let me stop there because I know it's almost 9 o'clock. This was sort of a rapid version of a longer talk. I hope some of it was helpful and interesting to you. Questions or thoughts? Yeah.
Okay, so what if you have a kid who is a programmer, right? Who
Sure.
programs mods or whatever, and that's kind of their
What's their thing?
sport, for lack of a better phrase. Like how, I mean, and they're not, I mean, it's legit programming, Unity.
I think it's content control.
Right.
I think you have to start controlling content. I mean, I think we've had a very sort of general approach to this. I think we need a more specific approach. So if you broke down his time on screen and put that in a pie chart, you know, knowing the content of the different pieces of the pie and trying to adjust that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of guys that really want to design video games for a living. I've talked to lots of boys who want to be beta testers for PlayStation. I don't even know if it's a real job, but it sounds like someone might pay $11 an hour or something. But I would try to control content more than anything. All right, guys, let me let you go. I'm going to hang out for a minute if you have any thoughts or questions. Good luck with your games out there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Culotta.